This is the Podcast Express, and we're talking to whoever's listening out there. Welcome to 5 Minutes of Trouble, the only podcast on the internet that discusses the John Carpenter film Big Trouble in Little China 5 minutes at a time. I'm Josh Horowitz from the Wing Kong Exchange.
And I'm Brett Stillo, your co-host here, and I'm going to ask you, have you paid your dues?
Yes, I've definitely paid my dues, and I can introduce two other people who have paid their dues. These special guests are the inventors of the Movies by Minute format and hosts of the legendary Star Wars Minute podcast, Alex Robinson and Pete the Retailer. Welcome, guys.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, how's it going?
Thank you very much for coming on the show. We wanted to try to get these guys on. Actually, the first time that we started this podcast, I came to them first to sort of trying to get their blessings about going with this radical 5-minute format, and they agreed to come on. So here we are discussing Big Trouble in Little China.
Although I'll admit the 5 minute at a time thing seems bizarre.
Yeah, there's a lot of time-space distortion.
How can you watch a movie like that?
I don't want to scare you guys, but our last guest in the half hour we had him, he aged like 40 years. It was like straight out of Planet of the Apes. We don't know.
Benjamin Button.
Yeah. So there's a few little glitches in the system. There is a possibility of whiplash. Just have a comfy chair.
I like the idea that it's like a digest. It's like, you guys are doing what we do, except for like, in a weekly kind of like, we did all 5 minutes and we summed it up into this one thing for the week.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that.
It's like a Big Trouble wrap up.
Yeah. There you go.
It kind of reminds me of what you guys did when you were in LA for your live shows, when you had to do the Muppets Star Wars special, where you had to just try to get through the whole thing in that time. And it's different. It goes a bit quicker, but it all wraps up kind of nicely, and we have some good discussions about some good minutes.
Yeah. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on here.
Mm-hmm. And what are these minutes in question? We're talking about minutes 20 through 25 of Big Trouble in Little China. Minutes 20 begins with a Chang Sing jumping out of a window onto a Wing Kong's back, and they end with Jack complaining to his insurance company over the phone. And you guys got some really choice minutes here. We've got some excellent characters being introduced, and we should really just get started on that.
Yeah, minute 20 it gets weirder and weirder. This is where this movie really takes off. We're still in John J. Lloyd's awesome San Francisco set. I've said this, many times before. This so-called gigantic alley in San Francisco would be worth about, like $50 million. There's no alley in San Francisco that's this big, but it's a really cool set and a great.
Wait, that's a set?
Yeah, that's a set.
Huh.
That's somewhere I would imagine on the Fox lot. In actual Chinatown, they're just, there's nothing that big. There's no way you could stage a full-on Tong War anywhere in Chinatown. So this is John J. Lloyd at his best. And, it's also, they've got great lighting here. It looks overcast. Like, it had rained earlier in the day, but we are somewhere in deepest, darkest Hollywood, gentlemen.
Yeah, that's correct. This was part of the reason why the budget on this film got very high, and they didn't really make as much money on it during its theatrical run, is because of John J. Lloyd's very detailed sets. They look awesome, and now we've got our fight going on in there. This is a continuation of the last 5 minutes, where if you'll recall, all the Wing Kong were fighting against the Chang Sing, and now the fight is continuing, but it's turning, and it looks like the Chang Sing are winning.
Yeah, and we're seeing that really cool Chang Sing salute.
That's right. Yes, the Chang Sing hand sign. So tell me, Pete and Alex, have you guys ever seen the hand sign?
In my entire life?
It is sort of like a secret handshake in a way, either from people who might be in a Tong or people who have seen Big Trouble in Little China, perhaps.
Yeah, I guess it's either or. It depends on who it is, probably. Like if I saw Alex doing that, I wouldn't think he was I wouldn't think he was a gang member.
Well, thanks a lot.
Just saying.
I couldn't be a gang member. My hands are much too delicate.
I think it's not so much the matter of if you see the salute, is the person giving you the salute wearing all black, and does he have a headband?
Right.
You look for those little telltale signs of,
Let me write this down.
Are you wearing all black? Do you have a headband? Are you carrying a Tommy gun? You know, little signs like that.
You think the Tommy gun alone would kind of give it away, but
Yeah. I was thinking, you don't really see Tommy guns these days.
No, that's in the last 5 minutes. That's kind of one fun thing is, you know, the battle just erupts and yeah, Tommy guns come out. I mean, old fashioned,
Yeah.
like 1920 style Tommy guns, and it's like a free for all. You've got Western 6 guns, you've got AK-47s. It's kind of this, you know, like I said, it gets weirder and weirder at this point.
Yeah.
We were kind of commenting in the last episode that, for all this action that's going on, it's almost as if this could be taken, almost 100 years ago until you start seeing some of the weapons that are a little more modern day. But I mean, they do range from 6-shooters to AK-47s to Tommy guns to sticks and stuff. It's all a very interesting take on this fight, and it draws back to sort of the timelessness of all of this.
What did I read that it was originally supposed to be a Western?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Weinstein and Goldman had written the original Big Trouble in Little China as an 1880s Western, a period piece, and then it was taken in by Fox, but then they got W.D. Richter to come in and redo the script to a modern day type of setting. There was actually a very interesting article that was about this just recently that was talking about the original Western one, and I believe instead of Jack Burton, his name was Wiley Prescott.
Huh.
Wiley.
Yeah.
What was he instead of his truck? What was he like driving a stagecoach or something? Or was it just his horse?
It was his horse. His horse got stolen, and that was the lead up to all the trouble. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, that is big trouble. Stealing a horse. I mean, that's I perish the thought. That's horse thieving.
Yes. But that probably is one of the reasons why Jack Burton is basically John Wayne in this one. It could be a callback to the original Western script.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah, his voice is very John Wayne. Like I'm sure it's an affectation. It's specifically for this. He got it. He knew that the character was supposed to be that.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, when we get to him, he hasn't really said. Has he said anything? I guess he says like, "Look out," or "What's up with that guy," or something like that.
Can I bring up something about Kurt Russell in general, or should I save it later till we're talking about Kurt Russell?
No,
go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, as Star Wars nerds know, Kurt Russell. There's screen test footage of Kurt Russell auditioning to play Han Solo. And I think it would have been a different Han Solo, but I think he would have been a good Han Solo.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the alternate universe Star Wars that I really want to see is that there's that audition. It's him and William Catt, the greatest American hero, as Han and Luke. And I would totally watch that movie.
Yeah. Not to get too tangential, but wasn't the story that they were almost dead set on William Catt, and then Mark Hamill was sort of a last minute change of plans?
I don't remember that story specifically, but this is not an area I'm an expert in, so it's possible.
Okay, but I do remember, William Catt was in the running right until the end, I think. But,
yeah.
But again, that is tangential. That's another movie.
Exactly. Yeah, we don't want to. Let's not steamroll this into a Star Wars discussion.
Well, we actually had another guest who was on earlier, Pete Mummert from the Indiana Jones Minute, who's very much taken by the whole Han Solo, Indiana Jones, carbonite fever dream theory.
Sure, yeah.
And he was trying to, in a sense, tie in that sort of thing to Big Trouble in Little China in the form of James Hong, who plays Lo Pan, who I guess was also in Blade Runner, and it was he plays that guy who he freezes the eyes and stuff.
I only do eyes.
Right.
Yes, and the whole Frozen thing and eyes and how he also plays Lo Pan.
I thought you were going to say that his theory was that Lo Pan was the kind of fever dream, the dying fever dream of the Japanese soldier in Airplane. That's James Bond. So somewhere
that's a
like as
first.
he,
Pete's going to hear this.
There,
And there we go.
he's going to be
Hi,
sad that he
Pete.
missed out
Got
on
a new
that.
one for you. All movies are connected. Basically, there's just one Omni movie that's, it's Birth of a Nation. And,
St. Elsewhere, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's insane elsewhere. So
it's all in the snow globe, right? But moving along in these minutes, I wanted to make a note. Just actually 8 seconds in, there's this really neat camera effect that happens. You see a Chang Sing do a roundhouse kick at the camera, and then you see the camera start to spin and blur as if you got kicked. It's just kind of a neat thing. This is a John Carpenter film, a different feel, but I'm wondering if that was something that was done in a lot of martial arts films, and he was kind of tying into that.
Could be.
I'm trying to remember with all the martial arts films I've seen. The whip pan is a pretty common thing in Hong Kong cinema.
Okay.
But yeah, that is a neat effect. And one great thing about this whole sequence is the cutting. It's just bang, bang, bang. It's a very tight sequence.
Yeah, very fast moving. Definitely. And then what happens right after that? We get some smoke, we get some green flame, and then thunder flips in, played by actor Carter Wong.
Wong.
So I wanted to just give a little bit of background on Carter Wong, because he's actually, of the different martial arts actors that they got to play for the film, he was kind of billed as one of the biggest well-known names in martial arts. Carter Wong was actually born Chia Ta Huang in China in 1947. And I have a Big Trouble in Little China press kit from the 1980s, and it goes into a little bit of detail beyond what is on IMDb and on Wikipedia. It mentions that he was a grandmaster in karate, kung fu, taekwondo, and Korean hapkido. Now, he had roles in over 70 martial arts films. They were mostly made in China or Taiwan. And what I did get from Wikipedia is that while Big Trouble is probably his most famous film, his second most famous was the 1977 film Yongzheng Mingzhang Shaolin Men, which means Shaolin Invincibles.
Yes. Also, I believe known as Born Invincible. Yeah, that's a really badass kung fu movie. It's available on YouTube. I will post a link. You can see it for free. And yeah, Carter Wong is a wicked cool bad guy in that he is, guess what? Invincible.
There you go.
Partly because he has this awesome wig that makes him look like a kung fu Edgar Winter.
He was also a chief instructor and consultant to the Hong Kong, Singapore, Macau, and New York City police departments. So this guy, he was the real deal.
Yeah. Oh, and a fight coordinator on Rambo 3.
Oh, was he really?
Yeah. So, yeah, Carter Wong's the real deal. You look up, you Google him and you see pictures of him with Bruce Lee. They were comrades in arms. So, yeah, he started at the same time, early 70s. Don't think he worked with the legendary Shaw brothers with any of their productions, but yeah. Did a lot of the kind of more costume fantasy based kind of kung fu movies of the 70s.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I love the you said that he was the real deal, and I don't mean to jump on if you're moving to this next, but if you compare the kind of the career, the at least the blurb bio of Carter Wong, who played Thunder, with James Pax, who played Lightning. Is it Lightning?
Yeah.
You got the one who you said is completely the real deal. He's a martial artist who's kind of transitioned, and then James Pax, it's like, I got a degree in business from NYU, and then later studied film. And,
That's right.
Worked as a fashion model for Armani, and then was a stock analyst on Wall Street. Like, it's like, oh, okay, this is not the real deal, but he just looked the part.
But interestingly enough, James Pax did have lightning powers.
Oh, there you go.
That's how he got the role.
In a different way, yeah.
Yeah, it was just a freak thing. He had static electricity. So
the question is, does he get residual checks from Mortal Kombat? Because we'll get to that in a little bit, but definitely the character in Mortal Kombat is certainly inspired by the look of Lightning that he has here. But do want to go in order. Just the thing I like to mention about Thunder is that I love that long wheeze that he has. I mean, they all have their cool martial arts intros, with their yelling and their awesome hand gestures and the chops and stuff. But then he has the wheeze. It's just cool.
Yeah,
makes him human.
Yeah. And that expression on his face, that wide-eyed, that crazy look that Carter Wong gets. I mean, like I said, he's a great bad guy.
Yeah. And that effect with the green kind of coming through too is it makes it seem very kind of otherworldly and mystical.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool, especially considering the movie's like 30 years old. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, all practical effects for this one, except maybe some, I guess, hand-drawn cell stuff for the lightning.
Right.
We were talking about before, they're going to be potentially remaking Big Trouble in Little China with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and how is that going to be in this day and age of CG? Is it going to sort of have the same type of authentic look that we've got in this?
That's probably. I'm going to guess no.
Yeah.
But moving on, we then have Rain, who flies down. And notice that his outfit is soaking wet, which is good.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Little thing that is coming down from the rain.
That's a rain thing.
Yeah, he's got that awesome menacing expression. They all have these great expressions. But Rain, talking about him, he's played by actor Peter Kwong, who I had a chance to meet when he was in L.A. They were having this neat Big Trouble in Little China showing over at the Japanese American Museum a year ago. And a very, very cool guy. He still knows how to do the spinning trick with the swords, too, in real life, which makes sense because he's actually known for his theater and dancing background. He was born in L.A. in 1952, studied theater at Cal State Sacramento, and he was known as a martial artist and a dancer, proficient in Northern Shaolin Kung Fu and Tai Chi Chuang, as well as jazz, ballet, ballroom tap, and street pop locking. I had to look that one up.
Nice.
You guys know what that is?
Oh, sure.
Do you know if he did a movie like Breakin'?
Yeah, it's the kind of precursor to like full-on breakdancing. Right?
I got to mention my favorite Peter Kwong movie, Never Too Young to Die.
Oh.
Featuring John Stamos, Vanity, and Gene Simmons.
Wow.
Gene Simmons.
Yeah. As a hermaphrodite supervillain. It's guess what? It's never been released on DVD. This is also a movie you can watch on YouTube. It's a remarkable cult movie from the 80s. And Peter Kwong plays it has a ridiculous name like Timmy, but he's John Stamos' sidekick. And he's supposed to be like, I think, a high school student, but Peter Kwong was about 34 when he did the movie. So go figure.
But other things about Peter Kwong, he was actually in a competing film at this same time that Big Trouble in Little China was being made, and that was The Golden Child with Eddie Murphy. He played a character called Tommy Tong. I've never seen that film. Have you guys seen Golden Child?
Yeah,
I've not.
There was some. I'm trying to place it and think of what else was a big summer movie that year. But
what year was it?
It was Aliens. It was 86.
Yeah, no, I mean, when I say big, I don't mean box office. I mean, like in my head, I was like, what?
Oh,
like was it like Metal Storm: The Destruction of Jared Sin or something like that, or was that too early? There was some movie that I really wanted to see that nobody else wanted to see, and it was around my birthday, and I had some friends. My mom was going to take us to see that, and then at the last minute, it was like, maybe we should see The Golden Child because it's something that more people want to see, and I just pitched a fit and. I think I broke down crying, but eventually ended up seeing The Golden Child, and I was like, all right, that was pretty fun. I like that.
I don't think we've talked about this too much in the podcast, but there is a lot of crossover and connections with Golden Child. That as I recall, there was a bit of a race to see who would get which movie done first.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
and there are several actors, I believe, who appear in both movies.
Mm-hmm.
Is James Hong in Golden Child, or am I?
I think he might be. Yeah.
Yeah. There is some crossover, and as I recall, I think Big Trouble won the race, but there was a whole scramble. Like, we got to get our martial arts fantasy out first.
Right.
And I guess Big Trouble won in the long run too, because Golden Child was a big flop, and no one's doing podcasts about that.
No,
exactly. It won the race.
Are we sure nobody's doing podcasts about that? I haven't checked recently.
Oh man.
I got dibs on it if anybody. We'll do the Golden Child.
I think Golden Child, it did better in the box office, but it never picked up beyond that. But Big Trouble has its staying power.
You can tell by all four of us, our enthusiasm for Golden Child. Yeah. When was that? 86, 96? Who was in that? Yeah. I remember seeing it on the ABC Sunday Night Movie. But other than that, it's all a blur.
I wonder if it's a blur for Eddie Murphy as well.
Yeah, I'm trying to see what I don't. Looking at the description of the Golden Child, I don't remember any of this. So I remember just like one scene.
Actually, I just remembered. I have an Eddie Murphy Golden Child story.
Oh, let's hear it. Yeah.
So, personal information. So my father was a dentist in Marin County, California, and he had several ILM guys as patients. In fact, Mr. Richard Edlund, special effects supervisor for this movie. My dad had his fingers in Richard Edlund's mouth. So one Friday afternoon, he's checking out of his office and he gets an emergency call from ILM. He's like, "Hey, we got somebody here. He was working on some stuff. He's got a toothache. Can you see him?" And my dad's like, "It's Friday. I'm on my way out. Yeah, this is, we really, could you do this? So he's like, "Okay." So, he waits a while and guess what? It was Eddie Murphy who had a toothache.
Huh.
Oh, wow.
So my dad has also had his fingers in Eddie Murphy's mouth.
Did he give him golden fillings?
I see what you did there.
All I remember is he said Eddie was a bit squirmy. He was not the most ideal patient. So I will ask my dad for the dirty details. I will reveal them on episode 6. So folks, tune in. There will be more on the the Eddie Murphy dentist emergency story. But I just remember he wasn't real happy. My dad, not Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy probably wasn't happy either. But that's all I got. I gotta go.
That's pretty cool.
Hi, Dad.
I realize now that the movie might have been the movie that I wanted to see instead of The Golden Child was probably Howard the Duck, because that was that year too. And
wow,
Howard the Duck.
That was 86.
Yeah, it looks like it.
I wish that. I think it should have been 86, but
it's pretty foul.
I don't think Golden Child was a flop. It was the number 8 movie, highest grossing film of 86. It grossed more than Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Howard the Duck?
No, Golden Child.
Oh, okay.
No. I didn't realize Golden Child was a hit.
Yeah, I thought it tanked.
Murphy was huge at that time. That was shortly after Beverly Hills Cop.
Yeah, I mean, he could do anything at that point.
Well,
I thought I remember it being his first bomb post, after being in 48 Hours in Beverly Hills, but just goes to show you, memory can be tricky.
Yeah, maybe we just should stop this episode right now and just proceed to Golden Child episode 1. Child minute, or 5 minutes of golden. 5 golden minutes.
5 golden minutes. There you go.
minutes.
That's it.
I'll be in the car. Never mind.
In the time since we first mentioned it, someone has already done the Golden Child podcast.
There you go.
And
The internet is fast.
Yeah, there's nothing left to podcast.
Yeah,
we don't want to forget about the third storm, though.
Yeah.
We talked about thunder. We talked about rain. We got to talk about lightning.
We gotta.
He arrives down a pole of lightning. He does his neat moves, and as we mentioned before, he is played by actor James Pax. And I see that Pete, you did your research on this one. Yes, he was actually. I have here he was born in Hong Kong in 1956. He ended up moving to America and studying business at NYU and film production at USC. And yeah, he was a dancer. He trained with the Joffrey Ballet. He ended up being a guest principal for the Hong Kong Royal Ballet Company, and then he became a well-known fashion model in his 20s, and that's what helped him get into acting. And aside from Big Trouble in Little China, he had a couple of TV roles on MacGyver, Tour of Duty, Matlock, but not too much beyond Big Trouble.
Now, I'd like to open up a question to all you gentlemen. You can tell this is an 80s movie because there's blue lightning. It's just one of those like 80s movie kind of things. How do you think this blue lightning stacks up against, say, Emperor Palpatine blue lightning in Return of the Jedi?
Oh, yes.
I think it's better.
You think this is better?
I think this one is better.
Yeah.
When I was watching it, for some reason, I was looking at it and was like, wow, that is some cool blue lightning.
Yeah. I mean, it's really intricate.
I think because it goes more like, it seems to it seems to interact more with him than with it being like shot out of his fingers kind of into the air. You know what I mean? It's kind of like wrapping around his body and his arms and stuff. So I thought it looked really, really cool.
Yeah, the way it kind of moves, spiders along his hat and his body and his arms, and
yeah,
even between his eyes too.
Yeah, that was something. As I was reviewing these 5 minutes, I was thinking, again, Richard Edlund and some of his team, they had 3 years since Return of the Jedi, so they were probably like, they, in terms of opticals, they stepped their game up. So I think you can see 3 years later, it's like, it's much more intricate and far more realistic. I mean, I watched it a couple of times, thinking, that's almost like digital effect quality or intricacy, but it's not. It's 1986. It's probably just all animation.
That poor guy who had to just sit there and draw lightning for like 6 weeks.
I only do lightning.
You got a lightning guy? Yeah, I'll call him. Hang on.
Lightning Louie. I worked for years in the lightning business in Hollywood.
As we mentioned before, though, people who watch this film for the first time might recognize the outfit, because that was the inspiration, as far as I've been able to tell on the internet, for the character of Raiden in Mortal Kombat. I was reading something where the creators Ed Boon and John Tobias had actually said that they were heavily inspired by Big Trouble in Little China. And it's not just that character too, but there's the character of Shang Tsung, who's the head of the ending boss for Mortal Kombat, who looks like Lo Pan. And that was not accidental.
Yeah, you totally see, the Mortal Kombat influence, or the influence of Big Trouble in Mortal Kombat. But it also kind of goes the other way, because the look of the storms, there's some influence from a classic 70s kung fu movie, The Master of the Flying Guillotine.
Sure.
Which is very much, there's a lot of Mortal Kombat that's you can see in that movie. It's another one of these very like fantasy-based kung fu movies. Totally over the top flick. Highly recommend that one.
Actually mentioning the look of the storms, that's a kind of a good segue into the costumes themselves. The person who designed the costumes for the film was April Ferry, who previously worked on Poltergeist 2 and then later on stuff like Donnie Darko, the TV series Rome, and now she does costume design for Game of Thrones.
Oh, nice.
And from the press kit, apparently she did some extensive research in books of Chinese history and present-day Chinatown to create a mixture of fantasy and authenticity. And according to Ferry, the challenging one was trying to do Rain's costume. If you look at it, you can see that it's got this whole intricate bamboo pattern on it. This bamboo armor was very hard to figure out because apparently it was done so many years ago, and she had to try to figure out how a wearer could actually move in the thing. It looked cool, but could it be functional?
We'll have to look for this in future episodes, but I'm wondering, is Peter Kwong, every scene he appears in, is he wet? They just hose him down because you are Rain after all.
Right.
So we'll just wait and see.
During shooting, they were always like, "All right, we're about to roll. Somebody hose him down," and he's like, "Oh, not again."
I'd like to think there was just like a little old man with a bucket.
Yeah,
there was just no cue. Just
right before they called, I think they would say action, and the first thing they would do would be splash him with water, so he'd be sputtering and dripping every single time.
Yeah. Picture this very Tim Conway-like character with a bucket.
Yeah. Rides off on a tricycle.
Word, just splashes Peter Kwong, and then he goes to get coffee.
Or maybe in an early version, they figure, he's the character Rain. He's got to have a rain cloud around him, and so they just have somebody with a spray bottle or a hose constantly spraying whenever he's on the screen.
Yeah, actually, I think nowadays they would probably have it. I'm sure, like he'll be wearing that big hat, and in the new one, it'll always be raining. Like the hat will always, like a reversed umbrella. He'll be under that hat, and it'll always have rain coming down on him.
Yeah, you can totally see that. Yeah. CGI. So I have a question, because we're about to see the storms, attack, and they pull out these various, exotic weapons, and I'm wondering, are those actual weapons or kitchen utensils?
Yeah, I had a note about that too. It looks like, all the weapons are distinct. I couldn't find any description of the weapons in the screenplay, but I mean, it's almost like there's a Star Trek crossover here, because do you notice that Thunder's weapons kind of look like that Klingon weapon? They call that the Batleth.
Batlash.
It's got two of them, these detachable sides. But then you get Rain with his selfie stick claws, or back
Yeah, the
scratchers,
back
yeah.
scratchers.
Back scratchers.
or mini
Yeah,
mini garden
complete.
rakes, and then you complement
Mini
it with
garden
the spinning forks of lightning.
Yeah, those propellers Lightning's got it. Those are the best of the lot. Those are the ones I want. And also, Lightning has that like Kung Fu Elvis sneer as they start
Yeah.
spinning. It's like, thank you very much.
Yeah, you can tell like the fact that they're working. He was like, oh yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
All that work he put into it.
He hadn't tried it yet.
You can tell, James Pax was a model just from that. That was his blue steel.
I just remember when I watched this film for the first time, and for Pete and Alex, my experience was watching this on HBO when I was a kid in a hotel room, over and over, just because I had chicken pox and I had to deal with that for a week. But I remember the first time I saw this and we got to this part in the fight scene, I was just cracking up when I saw this. I knew that the martial arts was awesome, but suddenly you just see this and it takes a turn for the bizarre.
Yeah. Weirder and
I just
weirder.
knew that this was a perfect movie for me. What did you guys think, having not seen this until relatively recently, about this part?
Yeah. Well, Alex, you should go first, because you've never seen this at all.
I don't remember. I'd never seen the movie as a kid, and once I was an adult, my friend Chris Radke was saying, you have to see it. It's the greatest movie of all time. And I watched it, and I definitely felt like one of those you had to be there kind of a things.
Mm-hmm.
But and I didn't watch the whole thing. And but this time around, I enjoyed it more. Maybe my expectations were different, or so yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think, I've said before on the podcast, I saw it, I think, opening weekend in the theater, and there were times when like it lost me and I was not enjoying the movie. I think part of it is our, expectations. I've said this before. Fox marketed it as, more of a traditional, like, Raiders kind of action adventure, which it's not. But yeah, I think this is definitely a movie that you got to be a little patient with and maybe watch it a second or third time. And, it's a bit like Lebowski, or a film like that, where, the first time it's a head scratcher. Right. And I think you just got to go with that. And, some movies are like fine wines.
Well, it's
I also did not like The Big Lebowski first time I saw it, and now I love it. So
yeah,
I got to see that in the theater.
I think just like I got on a tangent. Lebowski and me we had issues. I think I had to see it 5 times before I finally said, okay, I do like this. But I mean, in this day and age when we're very impatient and we kind of give movies one chance, Rotten Tomatoes and that whole kind of thing. Again, you kind of have to. A movie's like a book in some ways, where you just like give it a second chance, or maybe even a third or fourth chance.
It does seem to be a common theme, though, with this film from different people that we've had on, and just from talking to others. It's like the first time you see it, usually if you're older, you don't get it the first time, but then you come back and like fine wine, you get to appreciate it more and more.
But that all it's the same feeling like when I was a kid. Buckaroo Banzai, well, The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension. Because I know somebody's going to call me out on the title if I just say Buckaroo Banzai. Right? That I have that same feeling, and it's because they're related. It's W.D. Richter was so it's like that. When as a kid, I was like, I like some of the sci-fi stuff that's going on here, but what is like? I don't understand what like. There was something appealing about it, but also something like this movie is crazy. I don't know what.
Why is that watermelon in a vice?
Yeah, I'll tell you later.
Exactly. And I've said this before, I kind of feel like maybe those two movies are taking place in the same universe. Like I would love to see a Buckaroo Banzai, Jack Burton, crossover.
Totally.
Or Lopan and Hanoi Xan team up and, try to corner the fortune cooking market or something diabolical like that.
Unless they're one and the same person, as you were implying in an earlier episode, Brett.
Yeah, that's something I feel like, and we're getting to Lopan and his very exciting debut here, but I kind of feel like Lopan was Richter's way of recycling Hanoi Xan.
Right.
Well, before we get to Lopan, I just did want to just make one more note here. the Wee-Wan-Do part that the storms do. They have that really cool knife jump flip thing, where
Oh yeah.
after they get shot by the Chang Sing, with the pistols and the Uzis, and it has no effect, and then Wee-Wan-Do, and then the swords come up, and then they do this instead of them throwing the the actual knives. They get it in their hands. They do the flip, and then the swords go, and then it's like, oh, geez. Yeah, I just thought, whoa, when I saw that one.
Yeah. That is a cool move. Of course, they were just showing off.
But then they actually give the proper reverence to the Pork Chop Express as it comes in, because at that point, Jack in the truck, and he's like, just go, just get out of here, and he blares that horn, and he makes it go, and everybody else steps aside, all the Chang Sing, all the Wing Kong, and you wonder, what's going to happen here, but no, the storms, they step aside, or in the case of one of them, he just kind of does this cool flip over the truck. Just neat.
Well, he had to do that because one went left, one went right, and if it would have been out of balance if he had just gone to one of the sides, so he had to go over the top.
Yeah,
symmetry.
Yeah, all these guys are definitely dancers. They have the timing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then Lo Pan appears with his finger beckoning. We'll talk about James Hong, I think, more in a coming episode, because he's going to play a big part. But this is the first sort of official appearance of Lo Pan as the 10-foot tall roadblock, as Jack refers to him as.
Yeah. Now, Josh, I mean, is Lo Pan's height ever really established? I've heard 8 feet, 10 feet. He is a magical character, so maybe he's flexible and he varies. But,
well, later there is a line where, I think Gracie says, "What? He's 12 feet tall," and then Jack's very confident and he says, "No, 7." But yeah, he does move around. I think 7's probably pretty close. He's got that hat on with the nail going through it, so he looks a lot taller. But
so he's probably 6'4", and then there's the hat. Maybe he's wearing clogs. So
I remember
we can round up to 7.
I remember reading somewhere though that James Hong, who's not a very tall person at all, had to wear these massive elevator platform shoes when he was in that costume. But we'll get more to that later.
Possibly borrowed from Gene Simmons, but.
Well, I like that, since we said these guys are not only they're storms, they're they're kind of representing elements or natural powers, and then one goes left, one goes right, one goes over, and then one goes under. It's very much like the 4 winds, the 4 directions. It's a cool kind of
and
detail.
Since Lo Pan is a ghost, you could say he's going into the underworld.
Oh yeah.
You got all the directions covered.
He rises from the back of the truck like the dead rise, and yeah.
Now here's the interesting thing that's bugged me. I mean, not much, but so the Pork Chop Express clearly hits Lo Pan. The angle that they use, it looks like he just kind of crumples. Yet he's supposed to be a ghost. And in fact, later on, we'll see in the later minutes, he does more ghost-like things. He'll actually float through objects. I'm just wondering why they didn't use the actual ghost effect here. Why make it so that he was sort of physical and looks like he hit him?
Maybe they didn't want to reveal he was a ghost yet.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So it'd be more like, oh, look, they just killed the bad guy that quickly. That was no big deal. And then suddenly he gets up from behind and.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of a surprise factor there. I think it's also a possible carryover to something in the script that, Josh, you've talked about before. When you had Jack and Wang in the parking garage, and the Lords of Death Trans Am is heading straight for them. You take it from here, Josh, because you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, that's right. In the original W.D. Richter's screenplay, they were actually run over by that Trans Am, and it actually says they're flattened. But then they miraculously get up unscathed, and then there's a note in the screenplay that says it's gonna be that kind of movie. So this is a Richter, all the quirks that come from W.D. Richter.
Right.
Maybe that was intended here.
Yeah, I kind of figure, maybe, well, that's a little too much to have Jack and Wang get run over, but hey, let's run over Lo Pan.
I still want to run over somebody. Come on,
somebody. Gotta have somebody. We got a truck. Somebody needs to get run over. We're paying a lot of money for this truck to have it on the set, so let's use it.
But then, like the good Samaritan that he is, Jack Burton gets out. He does not hit and run. He gets out. He wants to make sure that Lo Pan's okay, or what was going on. And
I
then
think he's just checking his chrome.
Yeah, I think he doesn't just want to make sure that he's not dragging him as he drives through the streets.
Yeah, I hate it when I get supervillain in my gears.
But then we get something that that distinguishes this film from pretty much any other film that I've seen. We get the neat thing of the light coming out of Lopan's eyes. Okay, that's really cool. We've seen that before. But then we get light coming out of Lopan's mouth. When I saw this, I was like, "What? What did you guys think of that?"
I would more like the fact that he was shrieking.
Mm-hmm.
Because the sound he makes is not the sound you would make if it sounds like he's the one suffering when he does it. I think that almost makes him seem creepier because it's like it doesn't sound intimidating. It sounds more like that's the sound that Kurt Russell should be making when the light is hitting him. It's like that, that kind of weird sound. But
I thought it was weird or interesting, at least. Well, both that the light is coming out of his eyes, but then when it switches to his mouth, it stops coming out of his eyes. So it's like a finite source here. It's like eyes, no, okay, switch it off. Like reroute that out through the mouth.
Maybe there's like a little, like the little flap, like the epiglottis that separates your lungs from your stomach.
He's got a ghost light epiglottis.
Yeah, exactly. Ghost Light Epiglottis was my prog rock band.
Yeah.
Yeah, German prog rock band.
Ghost Light Epiglottis. I like that.
Yeah. I just like you see more of that, aqua blue based, 80s opticals. Maybe want to write a thank you letter to Mr. Edlund.
Yeah.
So what happens next? They escape. He abandons his truck. He also loses his trucker cap at that point. There's a couple bits of wardrobe that is going to be shed as these minutes continue.
Yeah.
It's like a gradual costume change.
Yeah,
it is.
He in the next few minutes he transforms from truck driver to superhero. Yes,
in a way, he
of
does.
sorts.
Normally, I'm pretty hat sensitive, but I didn't even notice that he lost his hat there.
Mm-hmm.
That's not, it's not a very memorable hat. I mean, it's a Harley Davidson hat.
Mm-hmm.
Product placement, maybe.
Yeah, could be. It is very kind of. I guess it helps you establish the character. It's like, all right, it's this type of guy. It's like a truck driver with a Harley Davidson hat.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And then once the character is established, it's like, yeah, we don't need to remind you of that. You know it.
The one thing that comes up here that really grosses me out is Jack's blinded, and Wang throws like water from a dirty rainwater from a ditch.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's not sanitary.
But it works.
Jack's gonna get pink eye from that.
Whatever's in that.
He probably knows
helps.
they're on a set, so
yeah,
it's okay.
Right.
Maybe he knew
just
that
the concept. It's like, that's not going to make things better.
Maybe that was water that just came out of rain.
Yeah.
So,
that rain.
Magic
water.
water.
Magic water.
Yes.
But
okay.
It's only been there for like 5 minutes, or not even.
That changes everything.
For like 2
I
minutes.
feel a lot better now.
Now wait, but could this be a tie-in to Jack's fever dream of Han Solo? The whole no, wrong. Okay.
Wrong show.
Okay.
Everything's a fever dream these days.
A couple of cool lines that happen after they run away from there. They finally they escape. Wang says, I'm never gonna get Miao Yin back, he says at that point. I mean, he just kind of realizes that he may be way in over his head because he got the storms, we got Lo Pan, and then they see the whole kicker there is that the Lords of Death are there too. And then Jack's got a great line at this point. He just says, "Okay, I'm going home. Keep your money."
Yeah. The delivery of that, he sounds like he's about 10.
Yeah.
He sounds like one of Beaver Cleaver's friends. I'm going home. It's not so much the dialogue, it's Russell's delivery time and time again. He just that's a great example of just a slight intonation. I'm going home. Like I'm taking my ball with me. So you guys are screwed. But
yeah, it does kind of vary a little bit from the I guess this is great acting because it kind of it's exactly how the character is represented in that he kind of goes back and forth between John Wayne and kind of like whiny, not whiny, but a little bit kind of unsure, just kind of
like a regular guy who just wants to get out of there.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's the heart of the character is that he's somebody who thinks he's action hero, but ends up doesn't know what to do all the time.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, they're kind of these wimpy lines. This is
Yeah.
I'm going home is like one of his wimpy lines. I'm going home.
Yeah.
You can keep
Well,
your
that's
money.
because he's on the hero's journey where he doesn't much like Luke Skywalker. He's kind of reluctantly. He doesn't want to go. But inevitably his destiny is to get involved in this whole crazy scheme.
No, you're right, Alex. In fact, he is very much a reluctant hero, but we were talking in this before. He's not actually the hero. You will find out later. I mean, he's more of the sidekick than the hero. Wang is the one who kind of asks him for help.
Sidekick?
Yes, and that was the original intent from what we've been hearing from John Carpenter, and it's what many audiences just didn't really catch upon, that he wasn't the main character. I mean, yes, he's the big name in the movie, but he's
the white
sidekick
guy.
of
How
Wang.
could he not be the hero?
I know. It's just different here. But he
that's
does
something.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, it's true. We're going to see more of this, but it's the transition when we first see Jack and Wang, at the mahjong table. We talked about this in episode 2, but yeah, Jack's very cool and it's all in the reflexes, and Wang's a mess, and it seems like it's going to be that traditional, hey, you're just a slightly older, taller, short round, and this is how it's going to roll. But yeah, as the movie goes along. Right now, Wang and Jack are kind of on the same footing. They're just like, what are we gonna do? Let's get out of here. They're both kind of being shaggy, and but Wang's gonna get tougher and cooler and more capable, and Jack's gonna be more of the goofy sidekick.
And he will have more of those sort of whiny Jack lines that come up later.
Whiny Jack lines, I love it.
We got whiny Luke, we got whiny Jack. It all comes together.
I just want to point out something I noticed for the first time, that they're in this alleyway, and they're going to have one more encounter with the Lords of Death, because we see that red Trans Am again. But there, next to the red Trans Am, is what appears to be a pearl gray Fiero, also a Pontiac. So did the Lords of Death have a special sponsorship deal with the Pontiac Corporation?
Mm-hmm. And potentially Harley Davidson too. There is
a Harley there.
Yeah.
True.
And
but I just
had that hat.
Yeah, no, that's probably some product placement.
Mm-hmm.
But auto supplied by Pontiac.
I really hope that the gang member driving the other car, I hope that his gang nickname is Pearl Gray Fiero.
That's another cool band name right there.
Yeah, no, that's Pearl Gray Fiero. Yeah, that's another alias I can use when I check into hotels now.
There you go.
But we're starting to wrap up the minutes here. After they run away, we get a sort of a quick shot of the alley and the storms basically killing everyone, and then they escape down into one of the buildings. And at that point, we get our first of the John Carpenter gotcha moments with Jack bumping into the Chang Sing. I think when I watched this movie for the first time with my wife, she kind of jumped, and I knew it was coming. And this seems to be a staple, I think, of John Carpenter films, just to have these things.
Yeah, and in a good way. You can do it badly and in kind of a cliche. Well, it's all kind of cliche, but you can do it in a way that works and you feel cheated.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can do it in a way that it works and you're like, oh, okay, and you're just kind of taking along with it.
Yeah.
Now, who is that Chang Sing soldier? Does he ever Chang Sing soldier? Everybody try to say that 3 times. Chang Sing soldier.
Oh, that is tough. You want to go?
Yeah.
Chang Sing, but does he show up later in the movie, or is this his one appearance?
I don't recall seeing him again. I'll have to check out the minutes, I guess, when they're in the elevator and they're attacking the Wing Kong. He's definitely not one of the primary Chang Sings who were like the martial arts coordinators on the film, like we discussed in the last minute. But yeah, he's just one of those guys. He's got that gotcha moment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. I'm satisfied with your answer. But yeah, they're scrambling through, the subterranean tunnel, and this is an important moment. Jack takes off that Mexican hoodie that he got from the dude.
That's right.
I'm a little skeptical. That motion he does not seem like someone who's taking off or pulling over a shirt off of his head.
Yeah,
Like it's just kind of like he's just kind of pushing it behind him, but
yeah,
it's weird. Did he rip it? I guess.
yeah. And like I am like wondering, maybe I guess he just got overheated running around. But like, why does he take that thing off? Other than
maybe it got all sewery when.
Okay, yeah, okay, there we go.
When he was going through that tunnel. I think it's like one of those. It's kind of funny. It's almost like the male version of like, well, we need a flimsy excuse to have the lead actress take her clothes off. So, he takes off his shirt so he can show off his guns when he comes out of the out of the tunnel. Like, people aren't paying Kurt Russell to not see those guns.
Yeah, no, that's your bullseye. You got it. Yeah, it's a beefcake moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he was pretty ripped at that time. I mean, I've seen pictures of Kurt Russell now. I mean, certainly 30 years later, but he was all slated to be the next really big thing, the next Indiana Jones. He had that look.
Yeah. And he was a jock. If you read about Kurt Russell, as a teenager, acting was not his thing. He really wanted to become a professional ball player. And he really pursued that during his high school years pretty seriously. I think he was an outfielder, but yeah, he was less interested in acting at one point, more interested in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
There's a great documentary on the Netflix called The Battered Bastards of Baseball. And it's about when Kurt Russell's father owned a minor league baseball team. And
really?
in Portland, Oregon. And anyway, the documentary is about the rise and fall of I forget what they were called, the Portland something or others. But check it out.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Anyway, so Kurt Russell's all over the place in the documentary. He talks about growing up playing baseball and all that kind of stuff. So check it out if that sounds interesting to you.
We'll definitely have to put a link up on our page for that one. That's cool. Yeah. But moving on, we have now changed locations. We're now at the Dragon of the Black Pool.
Oh, actually, I'm sorry, can I interrupt?
Because, go ahead.
When they come out of the sewer, we've been so enamored with Kurt's guns that, we see the tank top.
Yes.
The iconic tank top.
The Fu Manchu tank top, yes.
Yeah. I just wanted, Josh, where the design came from or who created it?
I happen to know a little bit about this because for years I was actually selling that design on my website, wingkong.net. I tried to find out exactly where that design came from because I wanted to try to see if it was licensed and if I needed to, get the rights to make it. From what I've heard on most of the DVD commentary, they just found that design from a Chinatown vendor when they were doing the film. It wasn't like something that Fox came up with. The design has been out there in one form or another. And they just, either they bought a whole bunch of them or they decided to just kind of copy the design. And then it became the iconic Fu Manchu tank. And yeah, at the time when I first started the site, this was like 96 and going into about 2000, I think people started asking me about the tank. I ended up getting somebody to do an airbrush design that was kind of based on that idea. And from that, I kind of modified it a bit in Photoshop. And then I had my silkscreen version. And that was as close as you would get to licensed merchandise on that tank at the time, until Fox contacted me and told me that I couldn't sell that on the site anymore. But since they did have official licensed Fox merchandise with that design, and I was selling those for a while. And I don't know if you can actually get the official Fox one, but there's dozens of places that are selling that design now on eBay.
Yeah, or any of those.
You're ahead of your time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Googling it and just coming up with lots of different independent shirt shops and stuff like that that are doing it, or any of those ones where you can upload your own design and all that stuff.
Yeah, actually, my version of the design that's I used for the shirt is what we're using as a logo for this podcast.
All right.
So yeah, now the Fu Manchu tank.
Fu Manchu tank.
Fu Manchu.
A close personal friend of Pearl Grey Fiero.
Well, they were married for a while.
Yeah, they were romantically linked at one point, but we won't get into the dirty stuff about that. Let's just move on.
Yeah, shall we move on to the Dragon of the Black Pool?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Totally.
So, yeah, real quick, a note about the Dragon of the Black Pool sign itself. The sign and the restaurant makes a reappearance in the 1992 TV series called Erie, Indiana. And I'll make sure that I put a YouTube link to it. But it's that sign. I don't know how they got it. But they refer to, we were eating at the Dragon of the Black Pool Chinese restaurant. So,
Wow.
so that's. I wonder what the story is behind that.
Or if it was just kind of, on the lot somewhere.
Yeah. Maybe.
There's a little relevance there because there's a little TV series a lot of people have been talking about called Stranger Things.
Yes.
And everybody's been saying, John Carpenter, Stephen King, 80s movies. But I remember Erie, Indiana, and there are some interesting similarities between Erie, Indiana, and Stranger Things. The most obvious being it's set in Indiana, but ultimately very different shows. But I kind of feel like the Duffer Brothers maybe watched Erie, Indiana as kids, and that's just one show that I haven't heard anybody mention, and when they're talking about Stranger Things. So just a little shout out to Erie, Indiana. And the Erie, Indiana Minute podcast, which is coming on after this.
That's right. 5 minutes of Erie, Indiana. The last notes I have on this, Mutual Fidelity Insurers of Sacramento is the one that he complains to on the phone. And he does this in his blue kimono bathrobe. I guess he was totally wet and soaked from that whole experience. And now all of his clothes are gone, and now he's wearing the more sort of Eastern attire. He's really out of place now.
Blue is an interesting. I'm trying to think if that means anything kind of color theory wise. Let's see.
Blue lightning.
Yeah, blue lightning.
It's automatic.
Blue Fiero.
Hydromatic.
Oh wait, no, that was Pearl Fiero.
Yeah, Pearl Fiero. She's not in this.
It could have been future. It was hard to make it out, but if I had to say anything, I'd say it was a pearl gray. But I froze on that image to try to identify the color of the Fiero. I suppose I could do a color matching with find an '86 Fiero brochure, but I'm going to say pearl gray.
So, all right, according to the thing that I'm reading, it's light blue is. So I was thinking, dark blue is normally kind of about integrity, and knowledge and kind of stability a little bit. But so light blue is a little bit of that. It's more of a kind of it's a softer version of that. So it represents kind of health and healing and tranquility. And so if after that kind of manic chase scene, then for him to be kind of in like at a home base, basically, his friend's place, makes sense that he would be wrapped in this cloak of healing and stability.
Oh, I like that, Pete. That's good. You see, this is why we have our guests on. We're getting all sorts of different insights. This is cool.
I just thought it was a cool robe.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
But the last thing here, let me see. Uncle Chu appears. We'll talk about Chow Li Chi, the actor, in the next episode. Talking about how China is here. And then we end as Jack has his incredulous monologue on China is here. And that wraps up our action-packed 5 minutes of trouble for these minutes. Is there anything that we have to...
That was something.
Yeah.
The G-force was something, wasn't it, guys?
Yeah.
It was like a roller coaster.
Yeah, this is the first time that you guys have been on a 5-minute movie podcast. How did this feel compared to the ones where you have to do episodes a week?
I kept waiting for you to ask us if we were going to come back tomorrow, but I guess that's
Well,
so you're going to chop this up? You're going to chop this up into 1 minute segments? Is that the idea?
No. We're going to do this. This is going to be a weekly podcast. And
wow, people have time to listen to 40 minutes about one. Anyway.
Well, you guys, I don't know. What's the longest minute that you guys have done on Star Wars Minute?
I don't think we've hit an hour yet.
Hour and change?
No, we've come close for a regular minute. For a regular episode covering 1 minute, I don't think we've hit an hour. I think we've come just.
We haven't? Todd Alcott didn't hit an hour?
No, I think he was like 57 or something like that.
Oh, that's disappointing.
Well.
Who will be the first one to break the 60-minute barrier? Tune in.
It can't be done. It's scientifically impossible. Man was never meant to fly.
We'll prove them wrong.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Always with you, it can't be done.
Let me see. Well, you guys are on. I mean, obviously, you guys have your Star Wars Minute podcast, and by the time that this episode airs, I don't think you're going to be doing Clone Wars yet, or not? No, Attack of the Clones. Sorry, yeah. But is there? Let me see. This is your time. And for those of you who are tuned into this, and for some reason you don't know about the Star Wars Minute podcast, I mean, it's the thing that got me interested in doing podcasting, really. I mean, my commutes were long, and I got to spend it listening to these guys do this minute by minute thing, and just thought it was I thought it was crazy at first, but then it was just great. Got to learn about Paul Treatham and all those other guys.
Just because you enjoy it doesn't mean it's not crazy.
Well, but is 5 minutes crazy? Oh.
That's something everyone has to look into their own heart and answer for themselves.
Yeah. It took me a little bit to wrap my head around it, but I think I approve. I think I like it.
All right.
Yeah.
You heard that, Brett?
It may take years, but our plan here will be validated. Will be vindicated someday. It may mean years of obscurity and ridicule, but the world will see the advantage of a 5-minute podcast.
One day.
Yeah, someday.
Sure.
Someday.
5
I
minutes.
may not live to see it, but maybe my children or my grandchildren.
But let's
There
see,
you go.
Alex and Pete, do you guys have anything that you'd like to, anything you'd like to plug, anything you'd like to add about the film?
Well, Alex has a book. Alex is an award-winning graphic novelist in addition to being a podcast host. And his book, Our Expanding Universe, that's his most recent one. It's available now
Cool.
wherever finer books are sold.
Mm-hmm.
You mean StarWarsMinute.com/Amazon?
Oh.
No, StarWarsMinute.com/universe. I forgot what I set it up.
Oh,
Go to
OEU.
StarWarsMinute. Yeah, there you go. StarWarsMinute.com/OEU. And that'll show you Alex's book, and it's well worth it. It's definitely a good read.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got several other books too.
What about you, Pete?
Me, I don't. All I do is podcasting these days, and I've got raising a daughter. I've got
It's a full-time job.
My output includes children and podcasts, and that's it.
Well, it sounds like a pretty good life to me.
Yeah, could be worse.
Mm-hmm. All right, cool. Well, Brett, anything else for these minutes?
Geez, I think we've really covered it.
I think so too.
Like I said, today's episode was kind of it got weirder and weirder, and it certainly did. And from here on out, we are definitely in big trouble in Little China.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Absolutely.
Oh, is that the part we're all supposed to say it in unison?
Oh, yeah. big trouble.
Big trouble in
Little China.
I didn't. Yeah, I forgot to send the memo about that. We were all supposed to do it in unison, but
You can fix it in post.
yeah. We'll put a reverb on it, and it'll sound great. So yeah, we can fix that.
Well, I'll put our final plugs here at this point. Please visit us at 5minutesoftrouble.com and check us out on Facebook at 5 Minutes of Trouble. We also have a new discussion group on Facebook that everybody should try to check out if they can. It's called the 5 Minutes of Trouble Truck Stop, and you can join and chat about this episode or other things, or Pearl Fieros, whatever you like. And we
Get
also
a large sandwich and eat it while you're on your CB radio.
Absolutely. And we're on the Twitter at 5 Minutes Trouble. And please be sure to tell your friends about this podcast. If you can, give us a nice rating on iTunes. We'd really appreciate it. And I would like to thank our guests. This was great. Pete the Retailer and Alex Robinson, thank you so much for coming on to this. I hope you had fun discussing
thanks,
the
you guys.
film. And this was awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
It's been our pleasure.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm going to look forward to listening to the next season of Star Wars Minute. And
Star Wars.
Star Wars. Oh, wait, I've got my own sign off here. I'm going to say this is the Podcast Express signing off. Tune in next week for another 5 Minutes of Trouble.
Big trouble in
Big
China.
trouble.
Trouble in Little China.
And Pearl Fieros.